Welcome to the Whiskey and Wisdom Podcast. This is episode number 6. I am Tyler, y'all, and this is my co-host, Chris Kellum.
Hey.
And this week, we are introducing Jimmy Moore. But before we get into that, Chris, what are we sipping on today?
So the first sip this week is Bullet Frontier Whiskey. I think it's actually a pretty good bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
My wife got it for me, and so
Makes it taste
has
better.
to be good. Oh yes, but it's a nice classic inspired whiskey based on like the pioneer people moving out to the Midwest. But it's a gorgeous color, super simple. This is one of my favorite ones to mix in with my old fashions.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up, Chris. I have a story about old fashions.
Well, before you get in that, let me take a sip.
Yes, let's take our first sip. Very solid bourbon. Can't complain. But I'll let you guys know about my bullet and bourbon story here real quick before we get into the podcast. There was one night that I had to myself, and one of my favorite places to go downtown is Whiskey Tango Foxtrot.
WTF.
WTF. And they make an incredible smoked old fashioned. And I'm a Bullet bourbon fan myself, so I always use Bullet bourbon for my smoked old fashions. And they tasted a little too good that night and had a little problem slowing myself down. So the next morning was not that fun, and during the night there was a few trips to
Ugh.
you know. But it's kind of ironic though, and I have to tell you that we actually do have a very first sponsor right now, and I wish I had this at the time because it probably would have helped with the splitting migraine the very next morning.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, Chris knows what it is. Our sponsor is Hydronique Hydration, which is a powdered beverage formulation, and they are packets full of vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, offering a more complete package of nutrients than sports drinks and liquid energy supplements. Plus, it helps you hydrate, unlike traditional multivitamin pills or tablets. So this definitely would have helped with the headache after having too much whiskey. However, the founder of Hydronique Hydration has a more wholesome story to how the product got started and not just getting too buzzed. He actually worked in the medical field, just like my wife does. And when COVID hit, not only did you have to wear your masks and surgeries and whatnot, but you have to wear them 24/7.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're in retail. Your wife is in education 24/7. They're never off. I know you guys have experienced too, not drinking enough water, not being able to eat at the right intervals. And when you're malnourished or don't have the right hydration in your body, you start getting those horrible migraines and not feeling well, being lethargic and sluggish, which is definitely not something when you are teaching middle schoolers or when you are a nurse and trying to take care of your patients.
Mm-mm.
So with all of that being said, please go check out Hydronique Hydration. It is actually spelled HYDRONIQUE and then hydration. You can go ahead and visit their website and Amazon website. They will be in our show notes below. Go ahead, check them out. It supports the podcast as well.
Man, this stuff looks so good too.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, we will be having a giveaway with them as well. Fantastic owner, just great people in general. So look out for that. But without further ado, this is Jimmy Moore. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, what you do, and we're going to get into one of your favorite hobbies here as music.
Yeah, right now I have a lot of favorite hobbies, but I think music's probably the last one on that stairway at least. But my name's Jimmy. Originally from Goldsboro, North Carolina. I moved here to Wilmington about 7-8 months ago, probably.
Yeah.
So still kind of new in town, but I've always come to visit my friends. They went to UNCW, so I came in, fell in love with the town, and then decided that this is where I wanted to go next. And, I'm glad I got here because once I got here, the music thing really started picking up, and especially here lately, and just excited to be along for the ride. So
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on the podcast is so I actually met Jimmy at Rounds, which is a pretty awesome bar in Mayfair. So go ahead, check them out first and foremost. They have some great golf bays and whatnot there to go hit some balls, drink some good whiskeys.
They have Whiskey Wednesdays now.
Oh, they've had Whiskey Wednesdays, I know. They have a whiskey club that I have completed all 3 stages of as well.
I'm not that good yet.
So Jimmy knows me maybe a little too well. But we were talking about when you were a street performer.
yeah, so around the time COVID first hit, I was unemployed for like 2 months. I had just started like really getting into playing my guitar, and I wanted to try doing the live stuff, but nowhere was doing any live music.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, the hometown I'm from is already kind of dead, but it was beautiful weather, but no one was doing anything. There's no music.
Right.
And I wanted to just go out and play and, see what happens. And for me, when I would play on the street, I just always thought of it as like practicing in my bedroom, but people might walk by, and if they enjoy it, they'll throw a quarter in my guitar case or maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that's all I ever really thought of it of. And that's kind of what I still try to think of it as, even if I'm playing at Rounds or any of the open mics I do, I just try to think of it. You're just in your bedroom. You just have a few extra eyes watching you now.
Yeah.
So when I would play on the street, it'd be like 3 hours of me just out there and playing every song I knew or coming up with something new. Or if I happened to have something that I had written around that time, I'd play that. And after a while, I noticed like I started getting somewhat of like regular watchers, because the spot I would set up at, if you know the downtown Goldsboro area, there's this big fountain on Center Street, and I called it the Crossroads. It was more of like a traffic circle, but there's one building where it was just a rundown. I think it used to be like a pharmacy or something, but it was the only business that wasn't open. So I made that like my spot. It had this perfect little canopy that I could be under if it got rainy or anything.
Nice. Yeah.
And it was right there in the center, so everyone could see me and hopefully hear me. But right across the street was an apartment complex where a lot of old folks lived. And I started to notice that's when a lot of the same people would come downstairs and sit at the bench there at the bottom and just watch me from across the street. And then eventually some of those old folks got brave enough to come up and just talk to me.
Yeah.
I've had one old lady, she offered to write or give me some poems that she had written and try to put music to them. Sadly, I never saw her again after that. That was like the last week I played there. So that was part of the reason. But I've had an old man that he rolled up on his little motorized scooter and offered to sing with me. He just came up with some nonsense lyrics, but I play a lot of bluesy stuff. So he had like this perfect, deep, old man bluesy voice. And that was probably one of my most fun experience playing on the street. And then I would have this one homeless man that he would always, every time I'd play there, he'd always find me. He'd empty out his pocket of all his pocket change into this little top hat I had, and he would just sit down right in front of me and just watch. And that was probably the biggest confidence boost I got at that time, as far as playing, because like this guy who has nothing is offering me all he's got just to sit here and listen to music. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to play on the street, was because no one was doing any live music, and for me, music is a medicine. It brings people together. It can make you happy. It can make you sad. It can make you excited. It can do everything. I just wanted to bring that into the world a little bit. And I remember my last day in Goldsboro before I moved here, I just drove downtown one more time just to kind of say goodbye. And it was the only other time I've ever seen someone play on the street there. But
wow.
I like to think that maybe I kind of started that. If I could have done anything to Goldsboro, I would have, I hope I inspired some other kids to just go out there and make a little noise. And,
that's an incredible legacy to just kind of be the first person to be brave enough to set up shop out there, because I feel like that takes a lot of bravery just to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to set up here in the middle of the street and hopefully people like what I have to offer.
Yeah. And I sadly wish I had time to stop and listen to that guy play. Sadly, I was literally just driving through and then making my way here. Yeah. As long as they don't even need to know my name, but as long as I remain that one guy they saw on the street that one day, that helped inspire them. Because for me, that's what music is. It inspires others to do anything. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So actually, with that being said, what inspired you to first pick up a guitar in general?
Well, I've had a guitar since I was in high school, but you know how you are in high school. You pick it up, you don't instantly know how to do it, and you're like, oh, this is dumb. I don't want to do this anymore. Right. So I kind of, I picked up a few little simple tunes and then put it in the closet. And then I was living in Virginia at the time, and I just, I had played a lot of video games for a long time, and that was just that hobby was just kind of dwindling on me. And just one day I decided I'm going to pick up the guitar again. I'm going to sit down all day and I'm going to really learn a song. And that's what I did. I sat down all day and played the same thing over and over and over and over again until I had it as close to perfect as I could at that time. And that's what did it for me. It was so mind boggling to me that I actually learned the song I wanted to learn, and I could play it all the way through. And then from there on, it was like, okay, well, now it's the next song. And I never thought I'd be at the point I am right now where I'm doing gigs or, writing my own songs. I've been trying to get some studio time soon to record my own stuff. Because when I first picked it up, I was like, I'll learn how to play like five songs or so. And, it'd be cool to, when I have friends over, be like, I can play this. Then the bug just bit me, man. And it didn't help that where I was living in Virginia was like 5 minutes from a Guitar Center. So I'd go there every day. Yeah. Spent a little too much money there. Ever since, man, it's just the one thing that I like to do. It's what I do to unwind. It's, it's just part of my daily routine now. And
so what was the first song?
First song was a song by a band known as Kiss, called God of Thunder. It's kind of like a heavier song, but it's, for the longest time, that was my favorite band growing up, just because, most people my age who say that that's their favorite band, their dad showed it to them. Same with me. Yeah. I remember my dad had this live DVD of them that he just played on repeat forever. And when I was younger and he did that, I was like, oh, this sucks. I hate listening to it. But then one day I was just watching and I was like, these guys are kind of badass. Huh. And it just clicked with me. And now, when I do say that as like Kiss is my favorite band, I do get a lot of like, looks. Because one thing I've noticed just from after getting into music and then researching musicians, a lot of people go to Kiss as like, one of their biggest inspirations, because they are just these 4 dudes from New York that put on face paint and blew shit up on stage.
Right.
And somehow they made crazy amounts of money doing it. And I think that's what was so inspiring about them to me, was that like anyone can do it, really. Yeah. Just these 4 random dudes. And
so how'd you go from Kiss to the more kind of bluesy stuff that you play now? It seems like quite the transition.
I'm as surprised as you are that that's kind of the stuff that I like now, because like even growing up, I wasn't really into country or blues or bluegrass or any of that. I liked classic rock and, hair metal and some modern like alternative rock like Weezer and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think what really did it for me was like once I started playing, you start to notice how similar all that music really is. Because even though it's just louder and heavier, it's all the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like especially when it comes to a lot of the lead guitar stuff, they're just doing blues stuff, but just a little bit faster and a little bit louder. And then you start to appreciate where that stuff came from. And that's kind of where my rabbit hole went. I would see like Ace Frehley, the guitar player for Kiss. I was like, okay, well, who did he like? Oh, he liked Eric Clapton. Oh, who did Eric Clapton like? Oh, he liked so-and-so. And who did they like? And then you kind of just keep going down. And it's interesting to see how like they all kind of play the same, even though they have their own sound. They all, it's this building block of music and sound that at the end of the day is all the same thing. Like I've always mentioned like rap music, I call the modern day blues music, because it really is when it comes down to like the lyrics and stuff and the soul that goes into it. And I honestly consider everything nowadays just rock and roll, whether it be pop music, hip hop, rap. It's all got a little bit of that blues in there.
That is a very interesting way of putting it. I've never thought of kind of I can see it where you're saying that now, though, where rap is just kind of like the modern day blues. It's very interesting hearing it that way.
Yeah, and everyone I've told that to, they usually, once they think about it, they're like, yeah, it kind of is, you know?
Right.
Because the blues is all about, there's a difference between sad songs and blues songs. Because sad songs are sad songs, and that's normally like the country vibe, I would say. But blues is, you could be singing about something happy, sad, you know. You can be singing about the girl that left you. You can be singing about just sitting and playing your guitar. You can sing about anything you want, but it's just the way that you sing it and the way that you play it and all the soul that kind of goes into how you're playing it. And that's what I really fell in love with the blues about, because you can just, it's never really the same. Mm-hmm. It's always got these little differences here and there. And especially if you listen to, I've grown to appreciate live recordings a lot more now too, because of that, because like there's just something different about it.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to explain, but.
So for the originals that you do, where does the inspiration come from?
A lot of it is when I'm learning a new song or I'm trying to learn a new song, I'll learn like new chords here and there. And then as soon as I get like the main part of that down, I'm like, okay, well, let me dissect this and see how many other different ways I can play it. Mm. And I think that's something a lot of people don't even realize too, is a lot of the songs are the same thing. Like the other day I was trying to learn 2 different songs, and out of nowhere, they were the exact same chords in the exact same order. And I was like,
wow.
Wow. It just all comes down to how you play it and how you sing over it. And it's this weird like magic that's there. And some can call it science and math, which there's a lot of math in some modern day music. But for me, it all comes down to like feel and how I'm feeling in that moment and how I want to express that. And I've always said, even though I do sing when I play, I do that more out of necessity because it's just me up there. But I've always said that the guitar is my voice. And that's why, like, you've seen me play a few times, right? And like, that's why my solos kind of do go a little bit longer than normal, because that's really what I'm singing.
No, I love when you do your solos. That's definitely my favorite part, because you're exactly right. You can see the soul in it when you're putting it into it and everything. So it's fun to watch you do those. That's the best part of live music for me, is someone who truly loves what they're doing and just literally putting their whole soul into it and doing the best they can to provide an outlet, not only for them, but for the ones that are watching them. Major props for you to being able to actually be in front of people, because I know too many artists that they enjoy playing, but they just don't want to get out there in front of people. But I think that's something that's important, because if you have that talent, you could make someone's day. Kind of exactly what you said. It's contagious.
It really, like, I tried doing the busking thing, playing on the streets when I first moved here. Mm-hmm. And in Goldsboro, I could use amps and everything, and no one really cared. But I got like 15 minutes into playing stuff, and then the cops showed up and they're like, "Hey, can't do that." And I was like, "Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, I'll pack right up." Before they even showed up, I had a homeless man. At least he looked like he was homeless. Come up to me, and I thought he was kind of being a little aggressive at first, but he asked me to play a song. I played the song, and he gave me $1, and then he asked if he could play the guitar for a little bit, and I was like, sure, why not? He had one of those like harmonica headpieces around his neck, so he was obviously a musician at some point or some caliber, and he picked up the guitar and he played amazingly. It was crazy. It was like just this random dude that lives on the street, and he does the same thing, but for him it's a little bit different. He's making money to get by. For me, I was doing it for fun and to bring it to, and it just goes to show you how like it can really just connect people. And I've made a lot of connections just in the past few weeks lately, because I've been doing some open mics and I've been meeting a lot more musicians and a lot more like-minded musicians, because someone my age playing the music that I play is very different, I think, for this area. Because a lot of people my age, they're either DJing or making electronic music, or they're doing country music because that's easy and it's easy to get known doing that. Yeah. But for me, it's never been about how much money can I make when I'm playing today, or how many fans can I get today or something. If I can make one person just bob their head or tap their foot, I'm happy. The most joy I've gotten out of playing lately is when I do play like those old timey songs, and that one older person will come up and just start rambling on about how they've seen the person live and start telling me their stories of like when they saw all these other musicians or how they used to be in bands when they were in high school. And it's really cool just hearing all those stories and then taking their knowledge and their experiences and trying to use it in my own life now too.
The closest thing, and it kind of brings the whole story together for what you were just saying too, is so I was a DJ. So you're exactly right. The people our age typically go that route. And that's also because I have no musical talent either. So that is the easiest way to go. But I started doing karaoke in Carolina Beach, actually. And when I was doing karaoke, there was this old guy that came in, same situation, looked like nearly homeless. Probably hadn't showered he hadn't showered in a while. And he came in and there was a few people that knew who he was and was like, oh, he has to sing this song. Like, do you have the song pulled up? And I was like, this is going to be horrendous. Like, I'm going to have to turn the mic off. Like, it's going to be a whole thing. And I was like, okay, whatever. And got this song going and handed the microphone. Was the best. I did karaoke for at least 5 years. He was the best person who has ever sang karaoke on that microphone at any night that I've ever done. It blew me away. And at that point, I have never judged a book by its cover ever again.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's helped me do, is not judge people as easily, and even music as easily. Because I used to I was never into like rap music or hip hop or modern day pop music. And then once I told myself I was going to start making music, I can't just write something off because it's a certain genre. I got to actually sit and listen to it. And I'm really glad I've done that because it has opened my mind and opened my ears. And I've discovered a whole new set of people that I enjoy listening to now because of it. And it's what got me into the blues. It's what's gotten me into the electronic music I do like and the rap music that I do like. And it's really cool. I think everyone at some point in time should really try to do something musical, whether it be playing the guitar or karaoke even, because I used to do that before I even picked up my guitar again. Every Thursday I'd go do karaoke, and I had like the 3 songs I would sing, but but there is something about just going up there in front of people and showing yourself a little bit and making a fool of yourself. And that's what I've always called when I do play in front of people. I'm just making a fool of myself. And you gotta be able to laugh at yourself and laugh with yourself. And if you mess up, you mess up. Just only shows that everyone's human. It's the fun part about it.
Yeah. So you did karaoke on Thursdays.
Yeah.
And now you perform on Thursdays?
I do. At the moment, it's Thursdays, but we have been talking about moving it to Sunday mornings to try to get like that brunch crowd in and all that stuff. But especially with it getting warmer out, I can actually play outside of the bar now, nice. And people can hear that then come in. But yeah, now I went from singing other people's songs on Thursday to singing my songs on Thursday, and it's weird.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
I love good Sunday morning music.
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about too, because I do play a lot of like that chiller, slower stuff. I can get loud if I want to, but I do enjoy just me and my acoustic guitar, especially in the morning. Like my Sunday morning ritual already is cup of coffee, back porch, guitar, and sit there for like at least 2 hours. And, so now I can just do that and maybe make some tips. So.
Right. Yeah. You can't complain with that. One thing that I noticed just from talking to you the past couple of weeks as well, just kind of picking up the different gigs here and there. Tell me about the community that you've created and that you're creating now that's around music.
So right now, like every person I've met through the open mics I've done has been so supportive, and it's really mind-boggling to me because I have met musicians in the past that see it more as a competition. And I think that mindset is slowly kind of dying in today's world, especially when we had like a whole year where there was no live music. I think everyone's just happy to see someone playing some music. But and especially with like, you know, things on YouTube where you can just watch someone grow in their field, you know, people are somehow drawn to that now. So I think everyone just being so supportive as they have been has been making me want to do it more. Like I did an open mic last night. First time I played like on an actual stage.
Yeah.
I was at a place called Mad Cats here in Wilmington.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And as I was walking out, I had the bartender and I'm assuming a few of their regulars just tell me to come back, and they want me to come back.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like I opened up with like just an old timey blues song, and the bartender freaked out because he said he's never heard anyone play that artist before.
Wow.
And just hearing that kind of gave me a little bit more confidence after playing that first song. I was like, okay, cool. People actually do like the same music I do.
Of course.
Yeah. So
no, that's a good kind of point that you bring up too about the community kind of rallying around each other right now. That's always been something that I've focused on as well too. So even when I was in high school DJing, just having other people come along for the ride and build them up creates a better community. And really kind of what you said, there is that kind of old belief that if you're doing what I'm doing, it's competition. But by building a whole community, I feel like everyone starts building each other up. Exactly. And I love how the music community in Wilmington especially does that. There's a lot of artists that get together and rally together and do collabs together. And I've never stopped listening to someone else because I heard someone else on a collab. I just started listening to both of them.
Yeah.
And that's really something that I hope Chris and I can do for the podcast community too. Because I know at one point it was kind of, I wouldn't say cutthroat in the podcast community, but a lot of people believed if you're listening to this person, you're not listening to me. And I don't think that's true and really anything like that. If you can bring other people up, they want to listen to you as well. So I love that you're part of that community. I love that they took you in and that you're willing to go out there, because there's just people that are too afraid to even take that risk and go out there because you didn't know if they were going to accept you or if they were going to like your music. And that says a lot about you that you're willing to go out there and do that.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, I still get nervous every night I play. Like, but I kind of don't want to lose those nerves. I think that's what adds to, you know, how I do play, and it's what makes it fun. But yeah, no, I've always said, like, even when I was playing on the streets in Goldsboro, like, I've inspired a few of my friends to pick up instruments again, and you know, that's all I want to do is just inspire someone, because that's how you really make it. I think if someone can say, "Oh, I picked up playing music because of this guy," or you know, or I started doing a podcast because I was listening to the Whiskey and Wisdom, and you know, like that's really making it for me. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. One of my friends actually said this a few weeks ago, where these major artists, if they're making 10 million, what's an additional 1 million to them to make that 11 million? They're really not getting any extra satisfaction out of that. But for you, knowing that you inspired someone and that's something that's going to live with them forever, that'll live with you forever. So like we've talked about it before, we live in a capitalist society. You need money, but there's a way that money will never make you feel that inspiration will.
Yeah. And like, it still blows my mind that they pay me to play at the place I play at every week. But yeah, if I can get, like, I've already had, when I do play at rounds, I've had so far 2 people come up and play with me. Like, just random customers, you know, they just come up and ask, "Can I sit in on a song?"
Yeah.
Yeah, by all means, please, you know. And each time they were amazing. It was awesome. I got to sing with one person. The other guy, he completely took over the mic, and I was fine with it, you know. Have your moment, man. And if I can give anyone that little bit of a moment, you know, that I get to get, you know, once a week is, you know, it's cool to me. You know, one
of the things that I love that you do is bringing the instruments for other people to play.
Oh yeah, the bongos and the maracas.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's really neat. I've never seen anyone do that before, and just allowing people to come up and be interactive with you, because I know too many people that are very protective of their music. And like, if you come up and you shake that maraca in the wrong way, and you're not like that at all. And I really admire that.
That's what music's all about, man. It's to bring people together and for everyone to have a good time. And that's what I want to make it. I want everyone to, feel like a rock star for a little bit or something. And just the other night we had a kid's birthday party at the place I was playing at, and little kid came up and I handed him the little shaker egg I have, and he thought I was just giving it to him. He walked away, but his mom brought him back and he started banging on the bongos, and, he was having a great time. And, his little 3-year-old, he's not going to play it perfectly, but, he's having fun. And, who knows, that subconscious memory of him seeing this guy with a guitar and him hitting the drums. He might be a drummer one day, It's just, it's cool to me. Just bringing people together.
I like the inspiration that you're bringing, because you're like, hey, I want to inspire someone to do something else. And from my point of view, I think that's a great thing. I've always looked at life as everyone's trying to be capitalistic and they're just trying to move through life. But what can you do to inspire someone to leave a mark? Because, when you're dead and you're gone, the only thing that survives is your memory. And if you're that person who left a note in someone's head, like, oh no, I remember that guy sang this song, or it inspired me to do this, I think that's a good way to keep your memory going on, whether it be in music or in industries.
That's exactly my thought process with it, is like, I just want someone to talk about me when I'm gone. And, whether it be, my future grandkids or some random kid on the street that, saw me play and decided to pick up a guitar too, or even if it's just my friends that I've inspired here recently to start playing music, because I've always said, if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I don't know what I'm doing. And that's half the fun. It's not really knowing what you're doing and just kind of feeling it. And a quote from one of my favorite biopics about a musician. It's called Get On Up. It's about James Brown. In it, he says, does it sound good? Does it feel good? And it works musically. And
wow, yeah.
There's a lot of people I have met, and especially when it comes to like DJing and making the electronic music, where if it's not on beat every time or it's not perfect every time, it's not music. And I'm like, that's not 100% true, because I think what I play is musical, and I know it's not on beat.
Right.
I know, because I've tried to put it on beat and I can't.
No, I think that's a big difference. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on too, is I pretty much grew up in like the DJing world. I grew up DJing in high school and college and whatnot, a little bit afterwards. And kind of exactly what you said, if you're not the one creating the music, it better be perfect, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why I've taken such a hard left turn in the music that I listen to now. There's very rarely a weekend that I'm not downtown listening to live music. And I know it's not going to be perfect, and that's why I like it. You can actually hear the emotion in people's voice, and just that within itself isn't going to be perfect.
Oh, yeah. I think that's what brings the musicians back down to our level and helps inspire more people, because if you're on stage every night and it sounds perfect every night, people are going to think, oh, you sound perfect all the time. I can never do that. But if you're going on stage and your voice cracks and, or I missed that chord, or I played that chord wrong, or plucked the wrong string, that just shows that, yeah, these people are human too, and they do make mistakes, but that's part of it. And those are my favorite parts in songs, when people mess up. Like, I was just playing at the open mic last night, and the guy who went on before me, he had like drum loops that he had made for all his songs, and he's an older guy, and he was wailing. He was doing a great job. And then in the middle of it, his internet went out on his phone and just stopped playing. And,
oh, no.
But he kept going, and he finished off his little bit of the song and went over and fixed his internet real fast and went on to the next one. And as someone who is just newly getting into these open mics and trying to play in front of more people, just watching that was very inspiring for me, because I was sitting there kind of nervous. I was like, oh, there's like 3 of us, and there's a lot of other people here that aren't here to play. And I was on right after him. I was like, oh man, this guy's really good. Yeah. And then that happened, and I was like, okay, cool. It's okay if I mess up,
right?
Because he did, and it was cool. And needless to say, I did definitely mess up, but
that's all part of it.
First song, guitar got stuck on the chord, but
oh yeah. I think that's interesting too. And another reason why I wanted to bring you on is because you are so new getting out in front of people. what a lot of podcasts and other things that people will listen to is you're listening to this famous person talk about how they got started. And it's like, oh yeah, my grandpa gave me a guitar one day. I played a couple chords, and before I knew it, Warner Brothers picked me up and I'm making millions of dollars. And you never hear about those first actual steps, the actual grind of it, and the going out there and meeting the community. So actually bringing someone on the podcast who's in the middle of it right now and can actually explain what it's like to be in it. Like you're not jaded by anything around you. You're in it now. You can actually talk to it and inspire those people right now as they stand.
I'm not going to lie. It's the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done. But everything you do that's hard should be a little nerve-wracking, I think.
Absolutely.
And especially if it's something that you really like. And I've always told myself, if I get to the day where I don't get nervous anymore, it's probably not going to be fun for me anymore. And I don't want it to ever not be fun for me. And that's why I am trying to broaden my horizons where I do play, because where I'm at now, some nights it's busy, some nights I'm there with the employees.
Right.
But I don't know, just something about each small little step I take, and you take one step and then you can find 3 other steps to go into different directions. You can talk to this person, then you can meet another person, or talk with another person who knows a studio guy, or talk with one person, they play the same music as you. Maybe we can jam sometime. Like one of the open mics I did was at a Bottega here downtown. That's a great little wine bar too. They do a lot of open mics and a lot of just jam sessions so the second one I ever went to was just like 5 guitar players, 2 people were on like drums. There's a guy on a piano, and we were all just sitting in a circle in this tiny little bar, no bigger than this garage we're in right now, and everyone's just having fun making music.
Yeah.
And it was the coolest thing to me, and I definitely learned something from that experience just by watching, and just by letting them, or having them let me be a part of that, was so cool and so fun, and just let me know this is what I want to keep doing. And that's why I do bring the instruments that I bring, because I want people to come in and join along, and they might find a talent that they never thought they had. And, because I never knew I could play like this.
Right.
It's still a little mind boggling, but it's fun. And I hope it never stops being mind boggling, though.
Yeah.
Because it's a consistent learning process. I've even heard like some of my idols who are like older guys that say they're still figuring it out. They're still learning. And that's some of the most inspirational stuff I could ever hear, is these guys that I considered gods in music are like, yeah, we're still figuring it out. Or I learned this new thing the other day.
Yeah.
It's so fun just sitting with like an older guy who's playing the guitar, and you think he's like amazing. And then he's like, oh, check this thing out. I learned it the other day. And he starts showing me.
That's
I'm like,
neat. Yeah.
Wow, you're still learning just like I am. And then, or I'll play something and I'll be like, can you show me that? You want me to show you how I did what I just did? Okay. Yeah. It's pretty easy, I guess. I don't know. But it's fun, man. It's a road I never really thought I'd go down. We all have the rock star dream, I think, at some point in time. We stand on our bed pretending it's a stage, or using the broom as an air guitar or something. And just to be actually out there really doing it is really cool to me. And I highly recommend anyone, if they have any desire to do anything in the entertainment, whether it be stand-up comedy, music, theater, whatever, just go out there and do it. 'Cause I used to do community theater a little bit when I was in high school, and for me it was just the getting in front of people and trying to entertain them. It wasn't really the acting part of it. I just wanted to make people laugh or cry or smile, whatever the situation might call for. And I do find it a lot easier with an instrument in my hand instead of having to remember countless lines. But yeah, I've always had that little entertainment bug in me, and I'm glad I found a new outlet for it. Because once I did graduate high school, it wasn't easy for me to get into the theater stuff again. And it's nice to have something to let that creative outlet thrive a little bit.
So I know for a lot of people, it's very intimidating for them to stand on a stage to do anything. For you, what was it that helped you get on the stage the first time, to get over that fear and to just get out there and do it?
That's pretty much it. Just get out there and do it. And if you mess up, you mess up. I remember the first play I ever did, I was in 8th grade. It was A Christmas Carol. And I was in chorus and it was a musical, and I got cast as Scrooge, some god awful reason. And I remember I was so nervous. I had a song that I had to sing by myself. I had the most lines in the whole play. I was the main character. And I remember it was the first scene. I forgot my lines, and I'm standing there freaking out. It was the scene where he's arguing with his nephew about coming to dinner and stuff. But luckily I remembered them. I pulled myself together and I got through the scene. And then and I thought about that the whole time during the whole play. I was like, I can't believe I forgot my lines. I can't believe it. And then I get off stage. I go see my family. My grandfather, he's also into community theater. So I went to him and I was like, I can't believe I forgot my lines. And he's like, when did you forget your lines?
Yeah.
I was like, right there at the beginning. You didn't see me? He's like, I thought you were just acting, man. So that's something that's always kind of stuck with me too. It's like sometimes when you're watching people and you think that they meant to do what they did, for all we know, it was a mistake, and that mistake worked. So,
yeah, I think exactly what you brought up there is something that would help people get on stage themselves. Just hearing, from what I understand anyway, when people get on stage, the thing that they're most afraid of is messing up and making themselves look like a fool. And I think the number one thing is you might think that you look like a fool up there, but very rarely can someone pick that out.
Yeah. And I've always said, like, when I say it to my roommate every time I go out to play, I'm like, I'm going to go make a fool of myself tonight. He goes, have fun. And, that's all it is. And you got to be willing to humble yourself and laugh at yourself. And if you end up making a fool of yourself, you make a fool of yourself. If people end up enjoying the fool that you're presenting to them, then that's for the better.
That's a win too.
Yeah.
Take them as they come.
Yeah. It's been really fun journey so far, and I'm really excited to see where it continues to go, because like I said, it's something I never thought I'd get into, something I only ever dreamed of, and the fact that I can play what I do play now is so cool to me. And even for any like up and coming musicians that are struggling to learn new stuff, like I always get in these pits where I know how to play what I know how to play, but I feel like I haven't excelled or moved up in my caliber at all. And then one day I'll just sit down and I'll pick out something new, and I'm like, oh, I tried to learn this 3 weeks ago. I couldn't figure it out, but today I got it. And it just goes to show you that you just got to keep at it. And something that my other grandfather told me when I told him I was going to start practicing guitar, and it's stuck with me ever since. It's, you can only get better. And I think people have heard that a lot, but that day it really stuck with me, because I was like, yeah, you're right. I can't get worse.
Right.
Yeah. And I've tried to play poorly, and sometimes it's not that easy to, when you're trying to play bad. I think that's something everyone needs to just think of for everything in their life, is you can only get better.
Yeah.
If you really want to do something, you can just stick at it, and you can really make something out of it. Yeah. Even if it's just for you. That's all it is for me. This is all it is for me.
So you're talking about your journey and kind of the journey that you're on now. What would be the next step for you then? What's the next step that you hope to accomplish? Do you have any short-term goals that you're kind of really working for?
So right now I've set a goal for myself for this year to have more gigs than just the one place I have been playing at. And then I want to try to get some studio time, my own song on like Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, just because that'd be cool. It'd be cool to be at work and take over the radio and be like, this is my song. Everyone listen to it real fast.
I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you. And yeah, that's really it. Just trying to continue doing what I'm doing. And I've actually, I've recorded my own stuff in like my home computer before. And I'm by no means a producer or a music engineer. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just figuring it out as I go along. And there's this website you can order custom pressed vinyl records. So I recorded 2 songs, and one was an instrumental, one was a cover, and sent it to the website and got it pressed. And I have my own little record for myself.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I have a lot of records. Once you tell your grandparents you like records, they're going to give you all that. So, and I have it. It's hanging on my wall. I even wrote my own little note on the back saying, keep at it, continue doing what you're doing. And then one day you'll have a full record. And even if it's just for me, that's That's all I want.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. So we're getting close to our time, and I know you're a listener of the Whiskey and Wisdom podcast, and I greatly appreciate that. So you may know the last question that comes up. So if you were to tell the younger version of yourself anything, what would it be? Just keep at it and keep being the person that you are. And it definitely gets hard, but continue to humble yourself and be the kind person that you are, because all that kindness that you do give out in the world, it definitely comes back in a lot of good ways. And I'm a huge believer in karma ever since I was my younger self. Mm-hmm. And I've always been, once that good karma comes back to me, I got to put it right back out in the world and just continue to be like that. I think you'll be good. That's great. I like that. Where did that wisdom come from? My name is Earl. No way. Yep, not gonna lie. Every day I'd get home from school, watch an episode of My Name is Earl, and I don't know why, but it just made sense to me. Do good things happen. Do bad things, comes back to haunt you. So yeah. So
it's always been a show. I'm like, oh, I need to watch this, and just forget about it. And then it shows back up, and you're like, oh, I want to watch it. It's like Scrubs for me. Like I never got into Scrubs, but My Name is Earl is. I highly recommend it. It's very heartwarming, and I think it does teach people a lot about being kind to others, and it definitely taught me. Like that's pretty much how I do live my life. You know, as soon as like something good happens to me, I know I'm like, okay, I don't like hanging on to that. Get away from me. I was just reflecting on the podcast in general and listening to some older episodes. And the one thing I was thinking about is, where does the wisdom come from for each individual? So that's why I wanted to start asking the question. And when I was thinking about where does some of the wisdom come from for me and what I would hope to bring to the world, I've noticed it was, at least for me anyway, and it sounds like for you too, some of the most unassuming places is where it comes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like it blows my mind how like the random moments that I have my random acts of kindness. It's just like, if you ever have a chance to be kind to someone or a good person to someone, you should always take it up. And whether it be when the guy asked me to play my guitar at the show, you know, or if it's helping an old lady carry her food out to her car or something, you know, just, you know, those little acts add up, and it always comes back to you, whether it be you win the lottery, or for me, for some reason, I've been getting a lot of gigs, and you know, and it's karma's real, and as long as you believe it's real, and I certainly. That's just how I've lived my life since I was like 12. So yeah, that's good. Cool. Glad you learned it early. There's some people that it takes decades for them to learn that. All right. Well, we are wrapping up on our time today. Thank you so much for coming in, Jimmy. It was a last minute type of deal for us today. So I do appreciate you coming in and saving the podcast for the day. Oh, I appreciate you having me. This was a lot of fun. So thank you all for listening as well. We are on all of the major podcast apps and streaming sites. Please share with a friend or family member if you liked the episode. Jimmy, before we completely sign off today, do you have any plugs for yourself or social media you want to throw out there so people can follow you and find out where you're playing your gigs at? Yeah, my Instagram is at jimmy.t.musicilm. So you can find me on there. I usually post about all my gigs up there. I've actually just recently partnered with a local singer-songwriter group here in Wilmington called The Voice in the Pen. You can also find them on Instagram. And I'll be doing my first real gig on April 13th at Waterline Brewery. So if any of y'all have time, you should come out, be some good tunes, and you know, I'll bring the bongos if you want to join in. Awesome. I will definitely be there, and I will post it on Instagram as well the weekend before, so we can get some people out there to listen to you. Oh, yeah. If you would like to help support the podcast, and most importantly, please share. You can also visit Hydronique's website and Amazon store, which will be in the show notes below. Thank you all again, and we will see you on the next time. Stay hydrated. Stay kind. Cheers.